Okay, so today we're going to talk about Entrelac, which is a knitting stitch when you get overlays of texture and colour coming through. So like in this one I've just used 3 reasonably plain colours, so 1, 2, 3, to give a weaving effect. And in this one here I've used a multicoloured yarn, nice and stripy, bright colours, dark colours. Knitted a square this time and I've cast off and finished, and then I picked up all the way around the edges and then just knitted a rib band in, so we've got ourselves a nice hat. Okay, and a sort of semi-tartan style mix of colours. Up here on the board we've got a Hug Me Tight style cardigan. So it's basically just the sleeves and it hugs at the front. And this one's actually used a multicoloured yarn with a long colour runs in it, whereas this is reasonably shorter colour runs, faster changing. So this is a slower changing colour run. So we've got several of the squares out in the one colour, and then as it follows along, I think I used 3 balls by the time I got to the other end, and the colours just mix in beautifully with each other. And then I just gathered up at the ends, put the 2, folded it in half basically, and picked up and knitted a armhole sleeve on that. That's what the inside looks like, and that's what the outside looks like. Same as on this one. What I did with this, after I'd finished it off, I then picked up along the top edge and the bottom edge and just knitted a couple of rows in the contrast colours, and it was mainly just to use up the last of what I had in those and just add a bit of extra interest to it as well. So what we're going to do today, I've already cast on 30 stitches. I like using lots of 10, and I think that's so that I don't have to, once I start knitting, I don't have to think of what I'm doing. I can just do it. But I have seen Entrelac patterns where they're using lots of 5 or times 20 or thereabouts. So I suppose it depends on how big you want your squares to be, and I think 10 stitch squares, and they're not really squares, they're oblongs, but 10 stitches across is quite nice shape to be working with. So basically, like I said, 30 stitches on, cast on, and then we'll start with purl. And knitting usually generally starts on a knit, but we'll start with purl, and we'll purl 2, 1, 2, and we'll turn and then knit those 2, 1, 2, turning again and purl 3, 1, 2, 3, and then knit those 3. Then we just continue doing that until we've done purl 10, and then we do something different. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now we need to purl 9. So see how it's growing as we're going. So that's going to be your first on here, this first panel. So now we need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, turn. 7, 8, 9. Now this will be the last row of this one and the first row of the next one at the same time. So what we do now is we purl those same 9, but we've actually got to purl 10. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's our first triangle made. That's the back, that's the front. So we stay on a purl row. So we've done our 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then we do the first 2 of the next triangle. 1, 2. Now this is where you also need to have your wits about you. When you turn to knit those 2, it's only knit those 2 and not go to the end of the row. So 1, 2. We turn again, so we've got 10 on this side, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They stay there now. We don't go back to them for a while. So then we do again 1. Whoops, come back here. 1, 2, 3. And turn, knit, 2, 3. You can notice a gap starting to appear in here between your first run of 10 and now the second run of 10. Don't worry about it. Then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and again turn and knit 4, and we do that all the way up to 10 again, and then start the next 2 for the next triangle. Now for doing 10. 1, 9. Now there's our 10th stitch gone in. It will buckle up like that on the other side. That doesn't matter either, that's because it's trying to sit on the straight part of the needle. For Entrelac I like using the circular needles because it just can stop that from rattling. Hang on. Okay, because it can just, you've got the more space for it to move around. I have used the straight needles before, so your normal single pointed, but I just find it bunches up in it too much, especially when I'm making bigger projects. So I like the flexibility of this being flexible, of course, to start with, but also then you can ease it around and it's not all in, you know, bunching up and getting in the way of itself. So now we've done with that colour, so now we're finished with that. Okay, so we're at the end of the first run, so we've tied in now the green, which will be our colour for the second run. We'll just have to leave those ends there out of the way for today while we do this. So now, most patterns I see say to increase on the first stitch, and I don't generally like doing that, so I increase on the second stitch. I just think at the end you end up with a smoother side rather than a jagged side. So now we have 3 stitches on, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we've increased 1. We ignore the other lots of 10s, so we're just working on this first lot of 10s. So now we purl back to the end, Now around we go again and again, knit one, increase. So there's several ways to increase, so whichever's your favourite way to do is the way to do it. So we've increased again. Now with this one and this one, the way I do it is I knit the two together. So join those two, knit them together, and then turn back again. Some patterns say to pass one and slip one and that type of thing, but I like the knit two together process myself, but I suppose there's no right way or wrong way. You've just got to keep the flow of you going. So increase one. Again, there's several ways to increase. Whichever works for you is the right way. Again, so one green one and one red one come off together as one stitch, and we're gradually integrating the red off the needles and the green onto the needles. So we do this all the way across till we've run out of red stitches just for this panel. I'm not worried about these other ones behind here. It's just the 10. So basically you're only working on 10 stitches at a time. Okay. Oh, nearly forgot the increase. There we go, increase. And again, two together. Okay, so we're just about to do our last row of green on this. So you can see how it's now integrated with the red along, and we now have almost a full row of green. So we'll do the same as before, do an increase. So increase one at this end and taking one off at that end keeps our 10 stitches at a time on here. Okay. Right, and those two together. So there we go with that. And so we've done our first piece of green over the red, and now we're ready to start the next bit. So still keeping the green, which is the colour we're currently using. So if I lay this over to the top of this one here, for instance, so the red goes on top of the blue and this green goes on top of the light blue. That's the row we've just done. And what we need to do now is this row, which is, you know, it's a panel, not a row, but still. So what we need to do now, and this is another reason why circular needles are good, because I can move them off there out of the way. What we need to do is now pick up 10 stitches along the side of here and then add them into our knitting. So get it up off the rattly table, untangle ourselves, and again there's several ways to pick up stitches. I just always go for where I can see the gap. So there's a small gap there, and if I just reach around here and get a crochet hook to use as a pointer, you can see where there's a gap between the stitches, so it's a loose gap and a tight gap. So one row is, because my knitting's a bit looser on either the purl or the knitting row, I can never remember, one row is always going to be looser than the other. So what I like to do is make use of the loose row, and that's where I pick up the stitches from. But if you've got even knitting, it won't matter which of the gaps you go into. So I go into there with that needle and then just straight over, and I've added a stitch, and again straight over, and I've added a stitch. So just keep it, because it does like to turn in on itself backwards, and then just always just consistently, for anytime I need to pick up down the side, which is what we're currently doing, I always go for that known deviation in my knitting as the way to work out how to space the stitches apart. So when patterns say pick up evenly down the side, as if they're expecting you to know what they know, and then you should have 10 stitches on. Because they're joined up with these 10 from earlier, I'll count from the start. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They're the 10 that belong to that side. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. I've got to find one more stitch, which is probably there, but I'm not pulling it apart now. I'll just squeeze it in here, in through there, get the 10th stitch on. So that's the start of our second row. So you can see how it's joined in under there. It is a bit untidy at the moment, but it'll sort itself out on the next run when we get a bit of movement happening. So this row, we now just purl back. Purl all those stitches off. And remember to only do 10, because on this first panel scene it's very close to the previous 10. Let's see now. 2, 4, 6, 8. That's our 10 from our first panel. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They're our 10 from the second. So turn it around, and now we're going to be knitting that way. So we go. Now there's no increase or anything on this one because we've already got our 10 stitches on, and just knit 9 as normal without doing anything else to them. Oops, that got stuck on my finger. Get back up there. So 7, 8, that's 9. Now we've got this one and this one, so like before, we just knit those two together, and by doing that we gradually work our way across the second panel. So I'll just do that again with another row, and over we go again. And it's really quite easy once you get the idea into your mind that this is what you're doing, and you just concentrate on those 10 stitches and now working your way across, and that's all you need to do. It is really quite I think quite an easy stitch, and then when you introduce other colours or other styles of yarn into it, make a feature out of it, out of some squares. Okay, so we've knitted 9, that's number 10, and that's the number next on the red, and just knit those two together, and gradually that just merges them into the one item. So I'll just knit back to the, usually when I go to put the knitting down, I won't put it down here, because you know, if you're picking it up the next day or 2 or 3 days later, it's easy to forget which way you're going. So always go back to the start of a row. There's nothing worse than thinking, oh yes, I know what I'm doing, and you've done the completely wrong panel. Okay, so we've still got to now knit across our 10 stitches, knit these two, so the last of this colour and the first of this colour together, and then purl back, and then just continue in the same fashion across, knit 9, knit those two together each time we get to them till we run off. That red panel then becomes green, and then we repeat down the side of this one here, the picking up of the 10 stitches, and then repeat this format all the way till the end, and then join in a different colour, so you can join back in the red again and just do the two colours, red and green, or like in this sample where I've got 3 colours, 1, 2, 3, and then join, go along till you finish. It's pretty well flexible. You can make other things that you like. So this one, for example, I just knitted it as a square, turned it over, and then because I know each square here on the triangle side is 10 stitches, I picked up 10 each, all the way around. Each piece was picked up 10 stitches, which gave me too many for a beanie brim, so then I just gradually decreased it down on the first row, so a bit of a savage decrease down to get the required number of stitches, and then just did the rib pattern and cast off for that one. This one up here, so that was using a 10 ply yarn. This one here, so like I showed earlier, that's the inside of the thing. So we've cast on 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Cast on 60 stitches, and just using the one colour, so it's all this is out of the one ball. So I've done the first row like we've done here in red, and then the second panel when it starts coming across is also in that dark colour, and then continue along. You just repeat the second row and the third row, second row, third row, all the way till it's the length you want, which in this case was roughly elbow to elbow when you try it on. And then on this side I've picked up 10 stitches across each of the triangle pieces and did a rib pattern to the end, and the same on this side, did the rib pattern to the end. On the sides here, if you look on the underneath, that's the inside of your panel, so you can see where some colours, like this panel here for instance, you can see how it's changing colours mid-row. Using out of one ball at a time is probably, I wouldn't suggest that as your first project, because the discipline of the two colours is that each row is definitely the one colour, and then you can hold it up and think, oh yes, I'm on the second colour and I'm going in that direction, the first colour goes in that direction. When you're knitting from the same ball, and especially like sections here and here where you're getting multiple panels of the same colour, it can be a bit confusing as whether you're going that way or that way. But you soon know when the next square you start working on doesn't turn out in the direction you want, so just pull it apart, start again and come back in the other direction. But all that's pretty well, once you get going with it, you fall into line with what you're doing.